What's up everyone, this is Nate Davis. This is a continuation of my update class, 2019 update class. This slide presentation is provided by Tech Help. Tech Help training provides the slides. This is a how to use a lab scope training. Now we're going to talk about known good waveforms. Okay, so welcome to the class, so let's get to it. We're going to talk about known good waveforms on a single channel lab scope. This is a waveform of an AC signal, permanent magnet. You can see here, this is the zero line here. From 0, positive, 0, negative. Okay? The most common type of AC signal is the wheel speed sensor. The wire is a 2-wire sensor, right? A positive and negative. As the magnet rotates around the stator, a voltage and current is introduced into the circuit. Now you can hook the lab scope to the positive and negative wires of the sensor. You get a signal like this. You can also hook it up to, you also can take the negative lead and hook it up to the ground of the battery, because sometimes it's hard to hook up the 2 wires to the sensor. So you can take the negative lead and hook it up right to the battery. Well, what happens is it will shift up a little bit, but it'll still be a pulsating signal. So what we see here is an AC signal. You see the 0 here is the middle line. Going all the way across to this end is 0, the midpoint. As it goes up, positive, it comes down, negative. The positive side is about a volt, a little over a volt, almost a volt and a half, and the negative side, this way, is about a volt, volt and a half. The total amplitude, but again, it's a known good waveform, it's an AC signal. The most common type is a speed sensor. It's a 2-wire sensor. You can have a pickup coil. Alright, and it's a pickup coil. And what else could be an AC signal? I can't think of anything else right now. Pickup coil, speed sensor. Oh, cam and crank sensor could be AC signals also. It can also be AC signals. Basically, AC signal like a little generator. A little alternator, right? That produces an AC voltage. Remember, the stator stays stable while the magnet rotates around the stator. That produces this type of voltage. Let's look at the next one. The next one will be, let's see. Oops, that's not the next one. What's the next one? Here's the next one. This is a, now the next one is a typical fuel injector, a saturated fuel injector. Okay. Here's system voltage, about 14 volts here. You can see this is the voltage scale here, 0 volts, 10, 20. It's about 14 volts here while the car is running because it's charging voltage. This is where the PCM driver pulls to the ground here, which is normal. On this portion here, this is what is held to ground. This is your pulse width. This is on time. This is probably measuring close to 3 milliseconds on time because the PCM is pulling the ground here and it's holding the ground. At this point, it's spraying fuel. So if I had cursors here, I would probably get, let me see, probably close to 3 milliseconds. So this is 2. So you can see here it's 2, 4, 6, 8. You're going to start about here to read it, the subdivision that we learned earlier. Okay, and it's 2 milliseconds here plus this. Yeah, it's close to 3 milliseconds. Okay, so right here, the on time is about 3 milliseconds. Okay, this is when the piece is holding to ground. At this point, this is when the magnetic field in the injector or coil collapses, and you get this kick. Now, you can tell how good the coil is according to this kick. Okay, every car is different on a kick, but a weak coil will produce a very low voltage. I might be down here to 40 or even 30, somewhere really low, either 40, 30 volts on the kick. It's indicated you got a partially shorted coil. Now, this is a good picture. Remember, these are known good waveforms. We're going to show you bad ones later on. So as it goes up here, it kicks and comes back down to system voltage. As you can see here, that little movement, that is the pintle of the injector closing on the downward side. When you see on this end, the pintle and the injector is actually closing. Movement. You want to see this in the saturated injector. If you don't see this, the pintle could be stuck and it can cause a misfire. And then we go back to system voltage. Again, this is a known good waveform, a saturated fuel injector. Now let's go to the next one. This is a peak and hold injector. You usually see this on throttle body injection systems like Hondas or anything that's a throttle body on it. They got this particular one's a peak and hold. They also have a peak pulse modulating type that looks similar to this. And what you see here again is system voltage here. The PC I'm pulling it to the ground, holding it to the ground, then turn it back off. Now on this particular injector here, we're sending about 4 amps of current to it to get it open with no resistor slowing it down. So we send about 4 amps to this to get it open really quick. Once it hits about 4 amps, it's actually going to switch it to another driver. Then you're going to be in this circuit here. That runs about 1 amp. Okay, so right here we got the system voltage, pulling it down, holding it open, then it's going to switch. Turn it off, then it's going to switch to a second driver. This piece actually has 2 drivers in it. So I got system voltage going to it, the piece pulls it down to get it open real quick. Once it gets open really quick, once it meets a certain amount of current, it switches from that first injector to a second driver. That second driver has a resistor in place and controlling the second half about 1 amp. Now the pulse width is from here to this peak here, always the last peak. Even for pulse modulating injectors, always the first drop, last peak. When you give it gas, this section stays the same. You will see this part increase and decrease the pulse width as you on this particular driver here. So again, this is called a peak and hold injector. This is a known good picture. Okay, again, I'm gonna repeat it again. We have this side at the first driver, right? When it reaches about 4 amps, it's switching from this driver to the second one. The second one has a resistor in it that works off about 1 amp. That second driver controls this pulse width here, this section here. My pulse width is from this drop to the last peak. If I give it gas, this section here will expand. On deceleration, it will close up. Again, a known good pattern of a peak and hold injector. Now, the next thing we see here is the primary ignition trigger. You can see here is my system voltage going to the coil. It's actually going to the negative side of the ignition coil. It's my system voltage here, and you can see that the module, ICM, or PCM is pulling the ground. This is my dwell on time. Remember points? This is my on time. This is when the coil is being saturated at this point here. When it's near zero like this, you see the zero? When it's near this zero line, the coil is being saturated. When the module, ICM module or PCM releases the driver to fire the coil, you see this inductive kick going off the screen. Secondary ignition had the same kick but it's much higher. But this is an inductive kick after it fires the coil. Right here is my spark line, how long the spark lasts across the spark plug. Usually it's about 1.3, 1.5 milliseconds, depends on the car. And again, here we see our oscillations, our dissipating oscillations from the coil, and back down just below system voltage again. Again, this is a known good waveform from the primary ignition circuit. And the next one is a Multistrike Ford. This is earlier Fords. You can see here in green, system voltage again. Here's 10 volts, about 14 volts here, and we pull at the ground. But you can see in this case, it's been striked or pulled at the ground 3 times. 1, 2, 3. The only reason I can think they can do while they're doing this is maybe it's for hydrocarbons, emissions. At higher speeds on this particular vehicle, at a higher speed, this would actually go back to 1 strike. But at idle, you see these 3 strikes. Here, strike, again, pull at the ground, strike, pull at the ground here again, strike. Okay? This is a normal pattern on a Ford. multi-strike system on the primary ignition. But remember, at cruise speeds, 2,000, 3,000 RPMs, it goes back to a single strike system. Okay, the next one we're going to talk about is the 4-crank sensor. You can see this is an AC signal also, permanent magnet. Now you can see here 0 volts because it's green, 0 volts. Now if you look at it, as a slide before, it was an even positive and negative. You can see this one is slightly shifted up to the positive side. That's because the battery, the lav scope is connected to the battery ground and not at the sensor, 2 wires on the sensor. That's why I shifted up like this. That's why I shifted up. But it's still a producing AC signal. You can also see this unusual gap here and here, which is one revolution. This gap is a missing tooth, and it's 60 degrees before top dead center. It's actually 36 teeth in this trigger wheel that passes the magnet, but one of the teeth are missing. So it's actually 35 teeth, 10 degrees separation, with one missing, indicating to the PCM on module that is 60 degrees before top dead center. So this is identified to either the PCM or module 60 degrees before top, 60 degrees, the piston is 60 degrees before top dead center. So it's designed like that. Again, this is a normal pattern. Now this one is this was a crankshaft sensor, permanent magnet. This is a camshaft signal, digital signal, Hall effect signal. Alright, it's a squirrel wave. Now you can see here a digital signal is a 3-wire sensor. Unlike this sensor, it's a 2-wire sensor. A Hall effect, a digital signal, aka a squirrel wave, is a 3-wire sensor. And uses the signal. It uses a power source, about 14 volts. It varies on cars. It's usually 14 volts, signal, and ground. It can be a pull up or pull down design. On this particular design, right, we start at 0. Okay, we start at 0 volts there. As the shutter wheel goes in between the Hall effect unit, right, it interrupts the magnetic field. The signal is then pulled up. Then when it passes, pull it back down. So high to low is 1 revolution of the camshaft. Then it repeats itself. Again, this is a normal pull-up signal. Hall effect signal, digital signal, I should say, for the camshaft. So this is a 3-wire camshaft signal, digital. Okay. Now what you're looking for is a nice corners, nice pattern, what you see here. So it's this is a good, again, a known good waveform. And remember, a Hall effect has 3 wires, and a permanent magnet has 2 wires. Now I have seen permanent magnet with 3 wires. The 3rd wire is like a shield for noise. Alright, let's go to the next one. Alright, next one is going to be, this is a 2-wire permanent magnet camshaft signal from a Ford. You can see it's a permanent magnet AC signal. You can see here this light, I guess you got light blue here, going positive, about 1, it's about 1 volt, about 1.5 volts here. Then it comes, remember this is 0 here, and it comes back down 1, 1.5. So I got an amplitude about 3 volts. Again, it's a known good signal of a 2-wire camshaft signal, right? This happens once every camshaft revolution. So it's a good signal here. So it went positive from 0, positive, and back down. Sorry, it went positive about 1.5, crossed the 0 line again about 1.5, going across here, right? Give me an amplitude about